the country on this endless holiday. You take the shortcut. Hey, this is Joey Cape, and you're watching Talking Records. I can't remember who drove past.
So you opened this album asking yourself, how can I describe the year? And we were all in this together and we faced all kinds of struggles. What was your experience and how did it lead to creating the new album?
Well, I started, I just like anyone else, with some quarantine time, coming home from travel, and then I had the lockdown that everyone experienced, well, most people on the planet experienced. And, you know, at first it was kind of lonely and surreal and a little bit scary. There was a lot of mystery in the beginning, you know. We didn't really know how brutal the pandemic was going to be, and as it was becoming brutal, it was very scary. But I was safe, you know. I moved in with my parents because I was in between places. When I got home and the pandemic was raging, I was thinking, oh, I'm probably not going to work for at least a year, so I can't afford to get, you know, I would have to sign a 1-year lease on an apartment, and it just seemed like a bad idea. And then my mother offered for me to come live with her. And so I felt very safe because I was with family, and the town that my mom lives in is a relatively small town compared to the city that I had been living in. So I rode my bike every day, you know, and took my dog for walks, and sort of a part of me enjoyed this forced break in my life, because my life has always just been go, 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 go. So there's a little bit of it that was okay. But of course, you know, it doesn't matter because, you know, all these people are suffering and it's, you know, it's scary. But I decided at some point that I should write songs and try to document the year, my experience with the year. And I think that opening line is just saying, how can I describe this whole year in one lyric, you know? And then I had that one line that I thought sort of forfeit to the fog and hibernation. And then, you know, that song is the title track of the record, which I had the title before I had any of the songs. I knew I wanted to call the album A Good Year to Forget, and I knew that would kind of encapsulate the concept. The rest of the songs were just songs that I wrote about different things. I made a sort of outline, and I had maybe 40 ideas of things to write about, and I ended up with almost 40 songs, and then there were really only 12 that kind of worked together, you know, and made sense to the concept together. I always have a lot of extra songs, and then maybe down the road I revisit them and they turn into songs that are okay and make it to one of the things that I do, whether it be Lagwagon, Astronaut, solo, or some other side project. But sometimes I have songs that sit around for a decade, and then finally one day I think, oh, this makes sense, you know, and I figure something new about the song, a new approach. It's very weird, but I write a lot of music, and much of it should never see the light of day, you know.
And others need to wait for the correct time in the future.
Yeah, because sometimes they do. I mean, a great example is before Lagwagon was even a band, I wrote a song called Choke. And we recorded this song pretty early in our career. We recorded it first for a compilation record that no one ever heard. And a lot of people really loved the song, but I had it for years and just could never really make sense of what it was supposed to be. And then eventually it became something decent with the band, you know? You never know about these things. But yeah, that one was pushed aside many times before it finally made it onto a record.
Despite the theme of an album, which is this year we wish we could forget, there is something uplifting about this album. It has this quality of a warm, comforting embrace, at least for me.
Nice.
Did you also found this feeling of comfort for yourself when creating it?
Yeah, I really wanted it to be a dual meaning, the title, A Good Year to Forget. Good insinuates that it was a good year in some ways, but it's also a good traumatic time that we should try to, let go of. And I guess that's because, as I said before, there's something positive about the experience of being forced to stop. For me, it was traumatic in some ways, but I also found a lot of resolve. It's a very nice time for me to kind of think about what's important in my life, on a selfish level. We don't get to do that as adults. We were supposed to do it when we were children, but when we were children, we're too busy playing, and then we get older and we can't play anymore because we have to work all the time, to keep up with the race, So, I don't know. There's something positive about that, I think.
You wrote, played, and recorded it all by yourself without band members throwing in ideas. You found this experience limiting because of that, or liberating?
I have mixed feelings about it. One positive thing is that it's nice to be challenged, and it's nice to, there are many positive things. One of the main things that's positive is that when you compose music or you write, if it's a collaboration with others and you have these ideas in your head, you have to translate these things for people, Like if I have someone else playing drums or playing an instrument, I say, well, this is what I have in mind, this is what I'm hearing composition-wise, and respectfully, you want to allow the musician to do their thing, because a lot of the people I play with are very good at what they do. So, you want to try your idea, but you also want to be open to them adding something to the project. Not being able to work with other people just made it very simple for me. I just wrote a song, and I always hear a lot of composition. Question would be, what instrument is this line, and is the vocal doing this, or is, who's doing what? And I had lots of time to figure that out. It was going to be just this very simple album, acoustic, vocal, maybe a little bit of something else on each song, maybe one other instrument, and maybe not even on the whole song, just something special on each song. But once I got all that done, I was listening to the record and working on sequence and stuff, and I realized there was this one song that would sound so good with drums. And then I talked to a very old friend of mine who has a studio, and we had both been vaccinated, and he said, come on over, I got a drum set with microphones on it. So I went over there, and then sort of 2.0, A Good Year to Forget 2.0 began. I went there, played drums on the one song, and loved it so much that I thought, maybe I just put a drum. I can't have an album with one song with drums, Maybe I'll do like 4 more. And then I ended up putting drums on almost every song, and then that led me to do electric guitar.
There's mandolin, lap steel guitar, right?
Yeah, I did the mandolin at home. I did some 12-string at home. I did most of the guitar stuff at home. But the electric guitar was recorded with Tom Flowers at his studio, and then Sean McHugh, it was drums and some electric guitar and some lap steel and banjo. I mean, I'm not a banjo player. I mean, it's kind of funny.
Fictional was with banjo, right?
Yeah. It's like I just had this rule that I had to stick to. The rule was, you cannot let anybody else play on the record. I couldn't I'm sitting there with friends of mine that are incredible musicians at this point towards the end, and I just had to stick with like, if I can play it, I'll play it. If I can't play it, it doesn't go on the record, you know. So something like the banjo, I mean, I really was just arpeggiating like a chord, and yeah, of course, not real banjo playing, but it does sound cool, you know.
I think it's beauty lies in its simplicity.
Yeah, it's nice that it's simple. That is one of the benefits of doing an album like this in this way, is that you have to keep it simple. So, you know, there's something about that I like too. I like simplicity.
I really liked your observations of human nature in your lyrics. For example, in Handy Lies the Head you sing about citing motive and deceit in an act of decency.
Yes.
And in We Might Be Wrong you said, we are born ignorant, stupid is something that you learn. So we've seen some extreme behaviors, opinions, beliefs during pandemic, so I was wondering if you learned something new about the fellow human beings that you didn't realize before.
Well, for many years I've been interested in philosophy, in particular someone like Bertrand Russell, a great philosopher was, and the stupid is something that you learn is definitely derivative, if not a direct quote from him. But he writes a lot about certainty and how it's dangerous. But I also think that things are, you know, humans have a knack of, throughout history, doing these scary things with certainty and persecution of others that are different, and all these, you know, there's many ways that this seems to unfold in ancient societies and currently in society with like cancel culture and these kinds of things. I find all that stuff to be terrifying. I thought about that a lot when I was writing the lyrics, and I wanted a little bit of that on the record. But usually it's just something that's depicted by, We Might Be Wrong, for example. I had the hook, we might be wrong, you know, that hook. And it just sounded good to my ears to sing those words. So I thought, oh, this is going to be the song about certainty and about, you know, what we are when we're young and what we grow to be, and how we have control over this, you know.
Come Home is a song that hit me the most personally. What was it like to reconnect with your roots, and why it's important?
I spent a lot more time with my mother, and I found that I really like her. Not just love her, I like her. And that there's so much about our philosophies and our demeanor and our thoughts and our ways that are similar, because she raised me. It was very nice to sit with her and my stepfather, who's been in my life since I was 8 years old, so I consider him a father. And they're just fun people. They're funny and they're smart and they're kind and they're compassionate, and you know, it was really nice to reconnect with that. So I wrote the song about that, about this. It's scary, and then it turns out to be this just like great savior. We got COVID, my family. Everybody did. And it was very difficult because, I mean, my stepfather, he doesn't have the same blood, so he's the oldest, and he had no symptoms, but he was positive. My mother and I and my brother and my brother's daughter and his wife, you know, and I mean, everyone else got very sick. My mom and I both ended up in the hospital, but we survived, and I'm happy now about that, you know, that we experienced it, because it definitely gave me a first-hand perspective just on how scary it is. My stepfather every day would come out to the room that I was living in and knock on the window with his mask kind of half on his face, and he'd put down a little tray of food for me, which I couldn't even eat because I was too sick. And how you doing, Joe? Through the door. I'm dying. Okay, thank you. And then he would go in the house and go up the stairs to my mom's room and bring her food and leave it at the door. And he had to live in like the main, you know, living room where people gather for other things, for 3 weeks or something, you know.
He took care of everyone.
He took care of us, and he was the guy that I was trying to take care of, you know.
Before we ended, I wanted to ask you about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack. This is like one of my favorite games, and it was also a very important soundtrack for me and generations of people, I think.
It's so amazing. To this day, I can't believe the effect that soundtrack had. Just perfect timing, perfect game. Yeah, I'm still so grateful that we were on that game because, I mean, it kept my band alive in a way, you know. It really helped us with our career and with our album, that album and other albums. And yeah, it's bizarre though. It's like, I equate it to like before the video game, it would have been like if you got a song in a movie. It was a famous movie, so all these people heard it, you know, in a different medium. We're very lucky. I mean, they reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to put a song in it. And we said, of course, yes, Tony Hawk, it's gonna be awesome, you know. We all grew up skateboarding and surfing and everything, you know, so it was, you know, it made sense.
Tony Hawk was an idol for all of you.
We all knew who he was, that's for sure. I mean, we're probably about the same age as him, so, you know, yeah, I mean, everybody, you know, from my generation, we all knew Tony Hawk is an incredible skateboarder, but he's a good guy too. I mean, I've done other things that he sponsored. He's always been, you know, gracious, and we played some kind of benefit for something else that Tony organized, and it was incredible, you know. He's a generous person, good guy.
Thank you for watching my interview with Joey Cape. Don't forget to check out his album A Good Year to Forget, and next to my head you will find more videos on my channel, and I will see you next time.